Welcome to Culture Couch Live. Gee, it's flown by, hasn't it? Where are we? August, I was going to say August, but it's actually, is it September? Does anyone know what month it is?
Yeah,
spring.
Pinching a punch for the first of the month, Rosie.
Outside, the sun's shining, beautiful, hey? Welcome to Culture Couch. Carly, Murph.
Rosie, Dave, Carly.
Hi, everyone.
How are you?
Hi, guys.
Actually, I'm going to talk. I got this message. I was talking to someone during the week and they thought your name was Merv because on the Culture Couch Live, and I said, no, it's Jared Murphy. So it's Jared Murphy, David Mission, and Carly Leach. And it was quite funny because I said, oh, why do you think your name was Merv? And they said, well, you keep on calling him Merv. I said, no, call him Murph. So Jared, David, and Carly. All right. So for those people on the Culture Couch, so that was good feedback. I actually said, no, that's very good feedback. Yeah. So we love.
I might go and grow a moustache.
Exactly. Now, Murph, I want to throw to you because we touched before we got on. So the Culture Couch Live today has probably been prompted by an article that you read and also what we've been seeing in our online workshops over the last month. So Murph, I'll throw to you a bit to maybe give the listeners a little bit of a view about what that article sort of spoke about.
Yeah, so it's a Harvard Business Review article and it's titled Leaders Don't Be Afraid to Talk About Your Fears and Anxieties. And they identified in this article 3 types of leaders: the heroes, who are leaders that are focused on the positive, doing their best, and they're trying to convince their teams that we're going to get through no matter what. The second type were the technocrats, and they were leaders who ignored emotions altogether and just focus on tactical solutions, like let's just get through it. And the last type were the sharers, and the sharers are leaders who openly acknowledge their fears, stresses, and their negative emotions. And what they found was that the sharers are coming out on top in terms of their engagement with their teams. And so it was an interesting conversation that we had based on those 3 types of leaders. And you know, sometimes when things get tough, the first thing you want to do is just, okay, let's just get on with it and get through it. Or convince the team, no, come on, it'll be all right. Come on, it'll be all right, and play that hero role. But the truth about it, what they're saying in this article, which was fascinating, and it leads a little bit into that Brené Brown vulnerability stuff, is to stop, step back, share your emotions and your feelings and your anxieties with the team, and it actually helps them. So you become a better leader because of it. So yeah, it was an interesting conversation.
And following on from that, we'll explore that as well. But following on from that, what we're seeing is a real commitment over the last month to get online and to get a lot of the programs going. And what we're seeing with all the clients we're doing, and once they get online, is just the relief a bit about, we're not going to talk about work. Oh, you mean we're actually not going to worry too much about the P&L today, or we're not going to worry about the business strategy. And as we see, probably about an hour in, isn't it, guys? We see about an hour in how they relax and they start to say, oh, this is great. This is about us. So it follows on a little bit from that sort of sharer mentality. So I'll throw to you, Carl. You can almost see it in the body language, can't you? About half an hour in, when they realise this is really about culture and people development, and it's fantastic to see.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing too, though, Rizzy, in your comment, is that our program is all about the fact that building relationships together as a team and as a business actually helps drive that bottom line P&L business result. So, the perception is still that, spending time developing relationships or having too many coffees with people is still a negative thing because you're wasting time and you're not ticking the list off. Yeah. But I think the realization now is that people, particularly at the moment, they really need an avenue to have that conversation and just to talk about what's going on in their lives, and that those things and having those conversations and putting that time aside builds those relationships that makes the work environment actually a lot stronger. So I think, that perception is really changing now.
Yeah, and it's obvious, Misso, isn't it? In the workshops, it's obvious what hopefully they love a lot about what we do, but they're not having informal conversations as much, are they? Because they're in the workplace. Sorry, they're not in the workplace. So the Zoom call goes straight into the meeting, whereas you're not having those informal conversations. how's your footy team on the weekend? Oh, how's the wife? How's the kids? How's the husband? Whatever it is. So it's obvious that part of what we're doing is bringing people back together as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and we talk a lot about leaders role modelling the behaviours that we want their team to produce. But as you say, Ruzi, what we're finding continuously in workshops is the situation at the moment demands a leader to adapt to that situation. And as you say, we're finding that teams just want to get online and have a chat and communicate and get together. They don't want to talk about strategy. They don't want to talk about, the technical aspects of work. They just want to get on and connect. And I think it's a real good opportunity for leaders to adapt to the situation and to maybe implement some processes where their teams can just get on and reconnect and have those conversations that they're not having because they're not at work.
And I think it's also a reminder, because we are caught up in this COVID world and obviously the fear, but I think we take it away from that. It's what is a reminder, Murph, is how important culture is. And understanding what culture is. It's about relationship building. And I want to get back to that sharer mentality. It generally is now about not being the hero. It generally is about being the sharer, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a critical part of this is don't try and incorporate what we're talking about to a standard meeting. Set up an hour, a couple of hours, 3 hours, and just say to the team, hey, we're going to get together, and you can structure the conversations, but keep them away from the day-to-day work environment. Because as you say, Ruzi, that then allows people to share information with each other. It allows the leader to actually say, hey, I understand how you're feeling because I'm going through the same thing at home. For example, like last night, the four of us finished our work, and then Liz started explaining her day, and I said, Liz, can I just have some time out? All day we come and go together, we're here. So you get up in the morning, you come in, you're crossing over, but you're always talking about work, etc. And so at the end of the day, you just actually need some time out, and that might be normally that might be driving home, or normally that might be going for a run with some friends, but at the minute you're just caught in that sort of meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. So what we're finding is that when people come in and it's not about the day-to-day work, they're just really enjoying putting on the table, sharing it, and discussing culture and building relationships. You're probably the biggest advocate of anyone I've ever met, Ruzi, around that, the strength of the relationship, and taking the time and setting it aside specifically for that purpose is, I think it's got enormous benefit to both the team and the leader.
Ruzi, you and I did a workshop yesterday where, in the middle of the workshop, the leader admitted to the team, because he'd lost a couple of his team members, they resigned last week, and he came on and said he had a really tough week, really struggled. And there was a real definite shift in that Zoom meeting when his team members, when he opened up and his team members, realised how much he was struggling, and then, got on the front foot to provide support. But more importantly, they understood where he was coming from. But, that capacity to be vulnerable and, to share with your team how you're going, how you're feeling, what's happening with, what's going on was really important in that moment.
I was going to say, Missa, I think the depth of conversations, Carly, are being greater than, it's funny, we've done a couple in the middle of lockdowns of face-to-faces, and we've done a couple, obviously, a lot prior to that, Murph. But to that point, Missa, the depth of conversation we've been having in our workshops, I believe, is far greater at the moment, because the capacity for them to talk about work situations, and we've been really unpacking a lot of those work situations throughout. And it's funny, isn't it? Our normal cadence, we're struggling to get through our normal workshop, aren't we? Because of the conversation, which I think is a fantastic thing, Carly.
Yeah, I think it's too, because, the traditionalists of the world want to keep work separate from home, whereas now it's really obvious that you can't do that. So, you've seen my kids in here, and we've all seen each other's families, and it's really, there is no line of delineation now. So, even just the fact that, you know what my house looks like, what my kids look like, it gives a bit more of an opening to have those deeper conversations, I think. And those who are really open and honest and offer those up are the ones who allow themselves to be vulnerable and who can really build those relationships together.
Well, it builds enormous trust because in terms of, as soon as you say, I need help, then people say, oh, how can I help you? And as a result of that, as a result of you needing them, and then them saying, hey, this is how we can help, you end up having a conversation at about 3 levels deeper than you would normally.
And I think that's that hero thing, isn't it, Murph? Like, you look at the hero, eventually, based on that article, people don't connect to the hero because they go, oh, he's always positive, he's not going through any problems, et cetera, et cetera. So it was interesting when you looked at that. So it's a great point. The distance becomes wider from your team because they're going, oh, wow, how can he be so good at what he does, and how come he's got no...
But they are also thinking, I can't relate to that person because I've got all these problems, he's got nothing, so that we obviously can't have a conversation.
Yeah, no, actually 100%. I mean, the other thing noticing in the workshops, again, is as we're going through them, the conversations are branching out. As I said before, they're getting into different spaces because I think people are missing that banter around the office, aren't they? There's just not that banter. So we all encourage the gratitude part at the start. The shout outs are becoming more and more important, aren't they? Yeah. Equally, and a number of workshops where people have literally never met each other face to face.
Yeah.
Which is
so often now where people have been, they could have been in the workplace for 18 months.
18 months.
Haven't met their colleagues because they haven't been able to travel. And so even that, like, sharing this story, there's a good activity, Carly, which I was going to text you today. I picked it up in a podcast, and it was around, if you were standing at the bar with your friends, what is something you would have told them that you haven't shared with us today because this is a meeting? Yeah. And that's the sort of conversation you have in the workplace, as you say, Ruzi, when you're just walking up the hallway on the way to a meeting, or when you're walking out at the end of the day, or you're going to get something to eat at lunchtime. They're the conversations you have where you talk about what's happened to your family, your sons, your daughters, your wife, your kids, your partners, whatever it is. And so I think that allowing the space for that to occur is so important to allow people to get to know each other, particularly if they haven't met face to face.
Yeah, I think that banter is really important, isn't it? I mean, I've even noticed, Carly, that probably the start of our workshops now online, we let that go for longer, don't we? We probably before we've gone, gee, it's supposed to be starting at 9 o'clock. What's going on? And I'm texting Murph or you, and we're going to start now. It's actually been fascinating, hasn't it? We're actually recognising the importance and letting that 15 minutes just take its course.
Well, I think that's the other fascinating thing, and we've talked about this as a group before, is that, people wait to have those conversations when they're in our sessions. So there's so much opportunity for people to come together and just talk about stuff, but nobody ever does until we're in a session together and we encourage that conversation, which is really fascinating from our point of view.
I think too, Misso, that the reluctance a little bit to go online is based around that face-to-face contact, et cetera, et cetera. But you can't hide on Zoom, can you? That again, one of the things that I've certainly noticed is in a workshop, let's say you got 10, 15 people, you can sort of wriggle around the chair and duck in behind someone. It's a bit like when you get the spray as a player, Murph, from a coach.
You can do that. You can do that, Ruzi.
You can sort of sneak behind. You can sneak behind the ruckman and go, I hope Parker didn't see me today and sleep. But it's interesting, Misso, isn't it? Like, you can see them, like us now. Like, I can see, even though I'm looking at you, Carly can't hide or Murph can't hide because they're so exposed. So it's actually bringing to life a lot of the stuff that we talk about.
And I think, Ruzi, what it's exposing is body language a lot more. And you and I, again, in our workshop yesterday, we noticed one of the team body language was really ordinary. He looked like he was really struggling. And we got online and spoke to the boss afterwards and said, look, we really noticed this guy was struggling. So it's an opportunity then to
Reezy didn't point it out during the workshop, Mizzo. That was good of him.
No, he did to me. He did. To me. Yeah, but no, it's a great opportunity. You know, you can really look through a lens of body language at team members, and if they do look like they're struggling, it's an opportunity to reach out and check in with them.
Yeah. And again, that gets back to that sort of hero versus the sharer myth, doesn't it? Like, I think that armor, it's probably one of our, I don't know, it's top 2 or 3 frustrating, because there's quite a few frustrating things we see often, but it is becoming more and more an opportunity. I'm going to call it an opportunity. So for any of the leaders out there that are watching and listening, that probably are still in that hero mentality. Now, we're not saying you've got to go all sharer and
you've got the technocrat one as well, Ruzi. So you've got those two that sort of one tries to be positive and one just tries to find the solution.
Technical. So both of those, I think we're seeing it more and more. I mean, I guess the other thing about the sheriff from it, no one wants to see them pour their heart out all the time. So that was something about it as well. So it wasn't, we don't want to hear, every single bit of your weekend, Misso or Murph or Carly.
I don't think you're going to get that from Misso or Murph, Rizzy.
Here comes Misso with another one of his war stories again.
It's called emotional contagion. No one wants that.
But it is a bit about the balance, isn't it? So, but the balance has shifted, hasn't it? Away from that hero strategy.
Yeah.
The balance has definitely shifted to more around that empathy, softness, vulnerability, and we see it all the time, don't we?
Yeah, 100%. Hey, Ruzi, before we finish, sorry, Carly.
No, I was just going to say, as you always say, Murph, those things help to build trust, and that's really important in the workplace. So it's absolutely worthwhile.
Yeah. Sorry, Ruzi, before we finish, I just got a question for Misso. We were talking about role model leaders before. You mentioned that, Misso?
Yeah, that's right.
I just wondered what you thought of Nick Kyrgios during the week.
Well, I don't want to incriminate myself actually, my father, and a lot of people would have got this off your fathers and parents. If you haven't got anything good to say about someone, don't say anything at all. And I'll leave it at that, Murph.
Good work.
I love that. Well, hopefully, again, we sort of came off the back of that article. So Murph, what we love is when we share that sort of stuff. So we also encourage that. So if you've seen something in your workplace, don't be afraid to share it with some of your other workers too. Shoot some stuff around. There's some really good stuff going around, and we'll talk a lot about it. So it was a really, really good study. So Murph, thanks for sharing that with us as well, because I actually found that really interesting. So hopefully we've had a good conversation. We've pulled it back into the workshops, but fantastic. Again, a credit to all our clients that are now starting to work online, thinking a lot about their people, thinking a lot about their culture. So anyone that's got a little bit of doubt, get it done. Just get it done. Look after your people, look after your culture. If it's online, that's fine. It works really, really well. We see it time and time again. So well done, Carly. Well done, Jared, not Merv. Jared Murphy.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, let's have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
See you, guys.
See you, Carly. See you, Reggie.
Bye, everyone.